like to call the Saline City Council meeting order. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We have an agenda in front of us. We have a motion to approve the agenda as submitted.
So moved.
Morrow, second Ping. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And we have Mr. Stump here, our TV guy. How are you tonight? Good. Thank you for coming.
Hello, as most of you know, Stephen Stump, the station manager of the Saline Community Television Network. I've now been working with SCTN for the last 3 years. Over the past 3 years, the station's kind of changed. Pretty much here, kind of just talking about kind of the operations and programming, kind of what we do up at the high school, which is where SCTN is housed, kind of based in the heart, buried core of the high school. No easy access points to that maze, so if you ever want to come up, feel free to give me contact and I'll navigate you guys on in. Some of the big things that have changed over the last couple of years is, at least the real big thing that just changed over about a year ago, was we updated from a VHS-based program where pretty much all of our programming was edited on computers digitally, then we went back to a VHS tape and then we had about 6 VHS tapes that was controlling all our programming. Now we're on to a digital system, which is hard drives, which to some degree now you're dealing with computers, so you can have power surges, stuff like that, have sometimes bigger consequences compared to when you're on a tape. But to do more programming, I needed a VCR for each program I'd play, so I'd be limited to about 6 or 8 unless I kept changing tapes throughout the day. So that's where that is. So now with the digital system, we have all that. We're able to, I mean, right now in our digital system, I can recall a council meeting from last August if it was so desired to be played on the station, which, you know, we don't need to play them that far back, and, you know, at a certain point they'll start getting deleted just because of space, but it's easier to have that ability now compared to having to go find the old VHS tape and pull it out and get that all done. So that's one big thing. With that, we've been able to improve our bulletin board, which we're still working on refining and getting it to the best way we can. It used to be run off a Windows computer, so as any computer that's on 365 days, 24 hours, it starts to have issues. It starts to, message errors pop up, different things come up. We're out of that system. We're up to a new, better system that accessible online, stuff like that, that works better with it. A lot of the big features this year, like when Saline Schools closed down, I was able to go in there, put a news bulletin, Saline Schools is closed. So that's been some features that have been nice to be able to improve more and more on our station. So that is a lot of that. With operations, we're getting to a point that now the studio has been going in the high school for about 6 years since we moved to the new high school. So some of our gear is getting to a point. Just this year, we just invested in 2 new cameras because the cameras we've had have been about 6, 7 years old. And now our cameras are better quality because of the time difference. They're actually HD cameras, though our station's not at the point where we can support HD output for the people that have the HD TVs. An HD camera that is downgraded is a better video than the standard camera. So that's one improvement. We're working on getting our picture quality a little better because you switch from 2, 4, and 7, then you hit 18, and we're trying to kind of make it look a little bit more eye-appealing and more interesting compared to, oh, there's the community station and keep going. As programming goes, we've got kind of a different way of what we have. We've got a couple programs that come in from the state. They do an insurance show that they shoot up at the state level. They have a job show for teens talking about different jobs and different industries. So that's kind of interesting to have that, and that's coming from our state legislator. That comes down to me. We get those programmed in. And then also as the station, we try to go out and film community events. We do school events, and we're trying to work some more of our own content. As most of all you guys are involved with city council interviews, we've got 2 of those out. 2 more will be coming this week, and getting those rolling out. Also later this week, we did a segment with our police chief about tornado warnings and the sirens, what they mean in Saline, as a public service announcement. So that's some stuff that we're now getting to be able to shoot in our studio and to turn out something that's our own, not just replaying an event that was, you know, going on downtown or stuff. though we're going to keep doing that, it's kind of nice to have something else that you can't see that anywhere else. You have to kind of watch the station for that kind of new original material. I've got 2 or 3 people I'm starting to work with now that are volunteering to come in. They like doing the talent side of it. I've got a couple people that are more the camera side. Because right now, with the station being housed in the high school, we work a lot with high school students, which to some degree are great because they get the experience to learn what industry is and what, you know, this great technology is. On the other hand, they're high school students, you know, so half of them don't have a license, can't drive anywhere, you know, responsibility, professionalism of stuff, you know, trying to teach kids when they're recording. You have a camera, you have a live mic, you need to, you know, stay quiet when you're working that stuff, and, you know, so that kind of, to find the good ones out of that crowd take a little while of refining and working on that. So getting some people that are from the community that have, you know, are more mature, that helps out being able to do some bigger productions. And on the high school side of it, this is the first year they've run a full class. It's called SHS Today, that I work with the teacher, Nate Bush. He's the video production teacher, and the students every week we're doing about a 5 to 7 minute show, news style, like 2, 4, and 7, kind of upcoming events at the high school, recaps of sporting events, recaps of, you know, student life stories of, hey, this student is working on writing a book, or different things that kids were trying to achieve in high school. And so that was also a couple minutes, you know, be a 5 to 7 minute program that we put on the station that then, you know, you've got high school students that are kind of got their show, and they kind of, in the beginning it was kind of a chore. We were trying to drag them through it. At the end, you know, they start to become, this is our show, you know, putting the extra time, the effort, come up with creative ideas. So that's kind of another thing that I'm trying to use those kids that, you know, that's the first year. I know we've got probably a quarter of them coming back for this next year, which is great because I can use them, you know, they'll help make better content for that show and hopefully get them into doing some other different types of shows. So that's kind of a lot of what kind of the operations and programming go on with SCTN up the high school. I guess anybody have any questions of any sorts? Mr. Morrow?
Mr. Morrow?
Oh, thank you, Mayor. Yeah, Stephen, thank you for your presentation. A couple quick questions. You said that the interviews that all of my council colleagues and I participated in, some of those have been run?
Yes.
And
Yep.
some will be running
Yep.
in the next couple weeks?
Some are in the comings to go. So we got the first one's done. We've got our graphic base. We've got our music selections pretty much, and that'll be just pretty much after the editing's done. That'll be piggyback. So that will make it quicker to get the rest of them going.
Okay.
So.
And then my other question was, has there been any thought invested in the idea or notion of filming and recording other groups and entities that meet, like i.e. planning commissions, school board, etc.?
There hasn't been a lot of discussion more about that. At one time, I know I had talked about the school board, and at the one point it was kind of debatable if we wanted to do school board because technically the Saline Community Television Network can only go to people that have Comcast video or Comcast cable service and that are in the city of Saline city limits. So technically the people that are affected by the school board aren't even all in the viewing range. So talking about that and trying to figure out, you know, maybe more going online and posting, that's been kind of talked about. We haven't really pushed up more of how to do that to a better level. For a facility here, you guys have already got all your cameras set up, mounted. That works real easy for you. For something of school board, you know, we'd make sure we'd be having to haul gear in, which wouldn't kill anybody, but, you know, just another step to do. So, but like I said, thinking of planning commissions or other things have not been, I guess, in my mind of not being so much at the city hall side to really think of bringing those. But I mean, it could be a possibility to look into for the future.
Thank you.
Mr. Law?
Stephen, about the high school students you utilize in the station, which is great because, as you say, it gives them experience and gives them sort of that taste of what it can be like beyond high school and into college and university. And speaking of that, we have universities around, and I just wondered if you or someone at the school board thought of tapping into that resource where there's a journalism program or a broadcast program that's at a University of Michigan or Eastern Michigan University that you could partner with and sort of guide, you know, these kids into.
Yeah, we've not done too much of the talking of that, and a lot of the interaction with where the students are going in the future part is kind of left to my counterpart, Nate Bush, who's the video production teacher, because you know, my background is the hands-on camera stuff. You know, I've got a certificate from Specs Howard School of Broadcast Arts, so the whole educational thing, I'm pretty much there as the how to do it guy with the technical side, but he's talked about trying to get in touch with some different universities. A lot of the colleges, they have their own little stations and stuff like that, so the ability to grab talent from there is kind of a rough spot because they've kind of got their own in-house stuff.
Right.
So that's kind of where that is. But.
The other question about since you've changed things around and given a different look to the cable station itself on air, what's the feedback been like? Good, bad, indifferent, or?
Good. I mean, a lot of people like it. They don't see the blue screen with the Hornet anymore. That's been my first year and a half, the biggest comment was, oh, you're the blue screen with the Hornet on it. Yes, I'm the blue screen with the Hornet on it. So that was kind of always everyone just kind of had a negative attitude towards it. So it seems like that's come along. With a service that's built into it, that's a yearly subscription. It's called Total Info, and it gives us traffic updates, traffic for the Detroit area. It gives us weather. It does stocks. It has some sports trivia. It'll actually have sports scores. So if you stay on it long enough, you can see Major League Baseball or NFL. So it's got some other more of what would be more of a 24/7 type thing. The only real complaints I've really had is people don't like the stock prices up there because they're not doing very well, and it's depressing. But I take that as at least you're watching the station. So I mean. That's the worst complaint I've got is the stock market's not going good and they don't want to see it. I think we're doing well with it. So, yeah, overall, people seem to like it a lot better.
Thank you.
Mr. Rhodes.
Since so much of what you do is student participation, how do you fill the airtime when the kids are out of school?
A lot of it, I mean, is just more of me going out. I mean, I still film a good fair amount myself. The kids help out an okay amount, like I said, when you run into that spot with I'd like to say the kids film and help out a lot with it, but in real time, I think I use them more when we're at football games or stuff like that where I need multiple people at a camera. I'm already there and I can bring them in, but we haven't got to the point where kids or volunteers are to a point enough where I can kind of offset the tasks of me being there. So I'm still at 90% of things. Once in a while they go do their own things. As the summer comes, we sometimes rely on some of our stuff we've had, and we got some of the state programming. And we have some events that have been here in town, through the summer that I capture and I'm going in and editing. And that's the other part with it being the summer. I use some kids that are at the higher level that have been through the program for 2 or 3 years as editors that help me get through some of the content to edit to get up to station when we have more stuff coming through. Now, since we have less stuff, it's less stuff that only I'm editing, so it kind of levels out a bit for how fast I'm editing stuff out to how fast we have stuff coming in. It kind of works. So I'm not pulling a bunch of overtime.
And then could you maybe let us know through Todd perhaps of when the interviews are going to come on air?
Yep, I will do that. Yeah, we're putting them on air, and also I'm getting up online as well, so it's not have to be restricted to only have the TV station there to be able to watch them. So yes, I will make sure between Todd or just emailing you guys, I'll get you the links and get you that information.
Okay, thank you.
Any questions? Have you posted online a request for volunteer help?
I have not online. I've got something on the bulletin board saying about if you'd like to learn video that we be happy to train. But
well, that's sort of what I meant. You mean on the TV station?
On the TV station, on that bulletin board that we have rolling through. If you want to learn video, that call my office and be happy to sit down and show anybody kind of at least the basic levels. If somebody has an idea of starting an educational type show that they want to do in studio, possibly be able to use either some community people or some high school students that have gone through and know how to run the full studio. That is kind of where we're at, and just trying to work out and find some people willing to work out with it.
Okay, thanks. Thanks for coming in and talking about what you've been doing.
Thank you guys so much.
Appreciate it. Citizen comment on agenda items. Under the Open Meetings Act, any citizen may come forward at this time, make comment or question on items that appear on this agenda. Comments will be limited to 3 minutes per person, and the citizen comment period will be limited to a total of 45 minutes. Anyone who would like to speak is requested but not required to state his or her name and address for the record. Is there anyone that would like to make comments? If not, we'll move on to the consent agenda. The following consent agenda will normally be adopted without discussion. However, at the request of any citizen or council member, any item may be removed from the consent agenda for council discussion.
Move to approve as submitted. Second.
Move Ivy, second Law. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Under new business, we have no unfinished business. Under new business, we need to have a motion to convene into closed session for the purpose of discussing the purchase of real estate. The city council will reconvene into regular session at the conclusion of the closed session. We have a motion, please?
So moved.
Have a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a roll call vote.
Councilmember Ping?
Yes.
Councilmember Little?
Yes.
Councilmember Rhodes?
Yes.
Councilmember Law?
Yes.
Councilmember Morrow?
Yes.
Councilmember Ivy?
Yes.
Mayor Driscoll?
Yes. We convene into closed session at 7:45. Reports from council members. Mr. Law?
The Planning Commission most recently approved a preliminary and final site plan for a 32,000-plus square foot structure that's going to be new for Cher Trier. That's part of their Phase 3, and I'm sure I speak with most of all commission members that we welcome this addition to our community for Cher Trier, and it's a good sign. Also, a letter was given to the commission from the architect acting on behalf of Key Bank, basically saying that they have withdrawn their application to request an ATM kiosk over where Key Bank is located. So that's on hold for the time being. And finally, this evening we met earlier, the Special Projects Commission met earlier and dealt with one item of interest that was on our agenda, and that was for Flat Out Bread. We approved a IFT for 5 years, and that will be coming to City Council for approval, I believe, sometime in August. First meeting in August. Should be first meeting in August, yeah, for Flat Out. That's it.
Are there any other commissioner committee? No? Any reports? Mr. Little, would you like to report on the Celtic Festival?
Yeah, the Celtic Festival, another exciting event, and I don't have a full count on number of volunteers, but somewhere in the 350 to 400 range put it together, and the people who attended seemed to have had a great time. There was a unique event in the history of the festival, is that there was a series of rugby matches, and the Friday night pub in the park, I'm told, was gathered about 800 people. I heard 600, and then I heard 800. I'll just say 800 and hedge my bet. But we don't have, of course, any figures on how many people actually attended the Saturday festival, but I'm pretty sure that it lived up to its reputation as a quality event, and it was a lot of fun. And certainly thank council for their participation, not just on Saturday, but also throughout the year supporting the festival. So.
Any other reports or announcements? Yes, just the Senior Center's having their 35th anniversary annual picnic meeting on Wednesday. Is there anything else? Do you want to talk about the Main Street program and the BDA meeting?
Sure, we can. Sure, we can do that. Last week we had, last Tuesday, yes, Tuesday the 13th, we had a webinar with the rest of the group of communities that have been invited in to be at the associate level of the Michigan Main Street program, and I believe we had about 19, something like that, 15 to 20 people in attendance. And it was a combination BDA meeting as well, but there were a number of downtown folks and city council members there, and to get an understanding, a little bit of understanding, and there's four different sessions around the state throughout. I believe they start in, is it October? September, October, and I think they go until...
August, isn't it?
Is it August? All right. August, yeah, August through March or April, I believe. And we need to attend the group, and there's two offerings for each one of the seminars or sessions, and we have to attend at least one of those to continue it on, and we can continue on as a associate level for a number. There's, I guess, technically in perpetuity, as long as the program is around, to help evaluate, to help do we want to go the next step, which is much more of a commitment, financial and otherwise. Thus far, seems to be some good interest, good involvement, and so we'll see how these training sessions go, and as far as involvement and that type of thing. So, but yeah, it was good. It was good to see a group of, there were some folks that had not been involved to that point yet, so that's good.
Any other reports or announcements? Huntington Woods, Mr. Campbell?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Jeff Fordyce, DPW Director, is here, and Jeff and myself and City Superintendent Engineer Gary Rubel working on the Huntington Woods street transfer request. You may recall, actually, it's this fall, I think it will be about 2 years ago, that they made the initial request to transfer their private streets into the city. They would become public streets at that point. And you may recall they had a laundry list of items they had to do with the streets. I mean, the streets have been constructed to city standards, but a number of items they needed to do to get them squared away so we would accept them. And one of the items that is still an outstanding item is the lighting system, DTE. They're still working with DTE to have DTE recognize them as their system. And then essentially, when that does happen, they would DTE would have ownership of the lights, but we would be paying the bill as opposed to the homeowners association. But they have a request, and I'll turn over to Jeff here in just a second. But they have a request. Apparently, they have a handful of items that need to be done to the streets and that type of infrastructure before we will consider, or at least make a recommendation to City Council to accept. But they're having, my understanding, they're having a hard time with the bids and maybe not getting as good of bids, or having contractors get back to them on a timely response. And so basically what they've come up with a request that says if we can agree on the amount, the cost of what those improvements, repairs would cost, they would basically write the city a check. Then we would accept those streets, and we couldn't do any work on them until they're in our city, a public street. We couldn't do work on them ourselves, or coordinate work while they're still private streets. But we would take that money, put it in escrow or whatever account, and draw down on. And what we've talked about is a combination of probably rolling into some DPW projects that DPW crews would do, as well as like the crack filling. We would roll that into the big contract that we would do in the spring next year, for instance. So those are the types of things. And Jeff, if you want to add to that, but that is the request, that they would pay the money up front to us, and then we would take over the streets, and we would use that money to achieve that laundry list of items.
Yeah, I think Todd covered it pretty well. It would be different than other private street transfers we've done in the past. The previous two that we've done, the association completed the checklist of items that needed to be done, and then we accepted the streets. I think in some ways this process maybe makes a little bit more sense, where the association, rather than completing the work, gives us a set amount of money, and then we complete the work utilizing those funds. I think it makes more sense because it wouldn't require any extra effort on our part to inspect that work. We just roll it into our existing maintenance programs, and then there's not an additional inspection. I can just go out and inspect my crack filling program. I don't have to do my crack filling program, and then theirs whenever they get that done. And similarly with the signs, we can just roll that into our sign program and get the signs replaced that need to be replaced. So I think the proposal fiscally and in terms of the quality of the work and inspection of the work makes sense.
Questions for Mr. Fordyce? What happens if the costs go over the estimate or under?
Most of the items are pretty straightforward. We are preparing a clause for one item on storm sewers because we haven't done a full inspection of those, and one of the items on here is to clean those out and inspect them. And if we find damage or substandard conditions, that the homeowners association would still be on the hook for those costs. But the rest of it, the crack filling, the signs, the sidewalk repairs, they're all very standard items that are easy to estimate.
Mr. Rhodes, did you have your hand raised?
Yeah, I have a couple of questions. In the cover letter, it refers to an attached agreement, and I don't know that I have an attached agreement. I have a cost estimate sheet.
Right. Yeah, I think Gary updated this from an earlier memo. There has been an agreement drafted, and I think council may have seen it 2 years ago.
Okay, big one.
No, it hasn't been to council. Well, if you saw the Arboretum or Breckenshire agreements, it's very similar to that one.
Okay. Another thing, kind of working my way through here, there's this underlined section about the difficulties with a private lighting system not meeting standards and that. If the city owns the streets, do we incur any liability if the lighting standards, the lighting is not up to standards on our streets?
My understanding right now is the only issue is the actual thickness of the cable between the lights. It's not the amount of light or the type of lights, it's just the wires that run between them.
Okay.
That DTE had a standard change between when this was installed and when they went to have it accepted as a public system.
Okay, so that's less of an issue than, at least to me at the moment.
Yeah.
And then on the second page, item 6 talks about the Act 51 revenue that we would expect to receive of $1,108 a year. Do we have an idea of what it would cost us to actually maintain that half mile?
Oh, a lot more than that. Yeah, I mean, our Act 51 revenues don't come anywhere close to paying for maintenance of our streets.
Yeah,
But
I didn't think so, so I wasn't sure what the impetus is to get those streets to be ours if we're going to lose money on them. And then on the cost estimate where it talks about trees, it lists 4 of them, but then there are 12 others on the backside that seem to have problems. So I'm just wondering what happens with those others.
those are on vacant lots, and those are installed when the houses get built. Yeah, that's our
They
standard.
would be our cost?
No, the builder would install those trees. That's pretty much the standard in all of our developments. When a house gets built, the street trees are installed at that time by the builder. Actually, they have an unusual number of installed trees on vacant lots. Most subdivisions don't have any trees on vacant lots, but there are several out at Huntington Woods.
But it was a good idea to try to make it appear more sellable at the time.
Mr. Morrow?
Mr. Fordyce, and I may have passed this by in your memorandum dated July 8th, but this approach that you're suggesting for Huntington Woods, this has never been done before, is that correct, in the city of Saline?
That's correct.
Okay. And what's your prognostication in terms of when something will come back to us as an action item?
If we get kind of conceptual approval of this, we would not accept the streets until December.
Okay.
That meets the cutoff for the Act 51 funds, and
Okay.
as small as they are, it maximizes our benefit.
But it would be later this year?
Correct.
Okay. Thank you, Mayor.
Any other question, Mr. Ivey?
Jeff, I was curious what the cost entails on the park area. There's 500 square feet, $6 per square foot. What would we be spending $3,000 for?
The sidewalk. There's no sidewalk in front of that parcel right now.
Yet there's sidewalk in front of every other lot.
Every occupied lot and most of the common lots, but not that one.
Why would we need to put sidewalk? Are we going to improve this park area in any way, or is it just going to be vacant?
It's an open lot there is a kind of a decorative retaining wall there and a large tree. And it wouldn't be a city park. It's a parcel that's owned by the homeowners association, but one of their obligations is to install sidewalk in front of that parcel.
They're paying for it.
One of their obligations.
They're paying us back for this.
Yeah, they would
This
be-
is not the city's obligation.
These cost estimates are for their obligations under this agreement that they would pay for, but then the city would execute.
Okay, I understand. Thank you.
Any other questions for Mr. Fordyce? Mr. Grossman?
When I found out that this was going to be discussed, I reviewed my file, and I find that on August 18th, 2008, Mr. Ivy moved and Ms. Ping seconded that the city approve the street dedication agreement and sign it, subject to review and approval by me. I never approved it, and the reason I never approved it was the agreement calls for as we've done in the past, for the homeowners association to do all the work at their expense. And one of the things that had to be done was the electrical, and the homeowners association could not reach an agreement with DTE, and the homeowners association didn't have enough money to pay DTE what DTE wanted to convert the system to a DTE system. That queered the deal. The deal never went through. But I would strongly recommend, as City Manager Campbell did, that we revise this procedure a little bit and have them deed the land to us first, and along with the money. They can give us the money and the deed. Then we can work on the street. And the reason I say that is I would not recommend that the city become a paving contractor or a street building contractor. And if we're using our people, or even if we're hiring people to build these improvements, we're becoming a contractor. If it's on their land, if it's on private land, privately owned land. If the land is conveyed to us first, then we're simply developing a city street, which is all right. And I don't know why we can't do that. They lose nothing by giving us a quitclaim deed right at the start of the thing, along with their check for the estimated cost of the improvement. And then also, if for any reason the amount of money that they gave us and we put in escrow didn't cover the cost, we could specially assess it. The street's ours, and we could specially assess the cost of constructing that street. So anyway, with that small adjustment, and I don't see why it can't be done, why we can't simply require that the newly cast agreement, which would be just like the old one, except that the old one included the DTE improvements. The new one would leave out the DTE improvements for now, and the homeowners association can work that out with DTE anytime they both can work it out.
Okay. I think we're all set. Any other questions from council? Just one more thing. I didn't put it under discussion because actually Mr. Marl just asked about it. I had an Ann Arbor Spark Executive Committee meeting today, and some of you might have seen in the paper, Ann Arbor News, it's been a couple weeks. I know that Mr. Campbell and I have talked about it. The new economy initiative, which is I think about 10 foundations in Southeast Michigan, awarded $1 million to the 3 economic development agencies, Automation Alley, Tech Town, and Ann Arbor Sparked, $2.25 each for doing a business acceleration. In the past, we've had some difficulties accessing business acceleration dollars because the money that was going, where it was coming from was the Ann Arbor LDFA, so it was restricted. Actually, the LDA, Smart Zone LDFA, so it was restricted to Ann Arbor and Ypsi. So this is an opportunity that has come up, and Todd and Lee and I have met already. I think Todd, you reported out in the past about incubator space and acceleration coordinating that. We met with Skip and also up at the Spark Central, which is the incubator for the Ann Arbor City area. So we have been talking about having a follow-up meeting to see what other access we could have. And I also talked to Skip about it at a meeting. And then the other thing that we talked about this morning, there's a couple other things, but they're not quite ready for prime time. The one thing they did talk about is Quantum Signal will be going in front of the mega board tomorrow, and that actually is going to be 43 jobs coming to Saline, so that's a really good to our downtown area. So I just wanted to report that out, and I believe they said ultimately a $6 million investment, so it's a very good. Hopefully that'll be positive and move forward. So I just want to report out, and I think that's about it for now around Spark. But I know that's on our list of strategic goals for this year is additional economic development activity, and we got a little bit sidetracked during the budget process, but I know that Todd and I have talked in the last month about trying to get a meeting going again, get going. We had moved towards doing a virtual incubator in the Saline area based on conversations we had with some local business people, but I don't think we've made a final, we're not ready to make a final recommendation yet to council as far as I know. Right?
Well, we have, if I might, Madam Mayor, we actually have been, since this winter, late winter, from those discussions, we actually have, we've met with a couple business owners to see what their thoughts are, and one of the ideas that they came up with was, why not contact existing business owners, and we act as a facilitator, if you will, and if we get requests for space, we say, well, here's a list of folks that have space, and work with, can work with them a low cost lease, or no cost lease for a certain amount of time, whatever it might be. And we do have because we have been getting more in the last few months. We have been getting more frequent requests for space, working with Ann Arbor Spark, and as well as some, anybody calling saying, hey, we're in the community, or we're looking at considering the community, but we're looking, we're an entrepreneur, we're looking for low-cost space, and this is what we're looking for, and we're maybe looking for, a small office with some bench space to do work on a prototype or whatever. And we've actually been forwarding that information on to these business owners, primarily in the industrial park is what we've been seeing. But again, we haven't made it an official, like we talked about. I just wanted to let you know we have been trying to promote that a little bit.
And also we updated the website under business development or economic development for the tools that are out there outside of the city, like the Small Business Development Center, MEDC, Spark. I think we had like it's a pretty long list.
That's
actually.
pretty exhaustive.
So anyhow, that's sort of an update. The other thing, there is a microloan program. I don't remember how it was funded through Spark, but they also reported that was a $2 million program, and they've awarded, I think, something like 40. I think that came through the state, actually. So they've awarded, I think, about 40 microloans, and that is countywide. That wasn't restricted to just the city. And the average loan has been about $30,000. So anyhow, any other discussion items? If not, citizen comments. Under the Open Meetings Act, any citizen may come forward at this time, make comment or question to City Council. This public comment period will be limited to 3 minutes per person. Anyone who would like to speak is requested but not required to state his or her name and address for the record. Is there anybody that would like to speak? Is there any other business coming before the City Council? If not, we will be meeting on August 2nd at 7:30 p.m. We have a motion to adjourn at 8:32.
So moved.
Second.
Second Little, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.